We had the education one on Monday, residential on Tuesday, healthcare one yesterday, and those were all looking at handover information that either creating handover information from incomplete O&Ms and the like, or specifying the information and then capturing it through the life of the job. In both cases, we were expecting that they were outcome based. This session is slightly different in that what we're doing here is looking at how we can develop and use tools to do automated auditing of the information. So, for example, being able to check handover information, see if it complies with building regs. Also, being able to fix data that wasn't done correctly in the first place. Now, what we're trying to do with this group is to identify people that are particularly interested in the technical side of things, and are probably already using various forms of AI, experimenting with it, but also some more practitioners who are doing some more serious stuff. If we can bring those people together with the work that we're doing in Active Plan, then we've got a possibility of having something that's more complete rather than reinventing the wheel. So the principle here is that if we can share some of the tools and techniques that we're working on, then we may well end up with some sort of vehicle, which could be a commercial vehicle, of turning that into some reusable solutions to go from there. So there's two aspects to this. One is understanding what the organizational need is, but not necessarily have the expertise to create the AI tools to address it. Then at the other end, we've got people that are probably very technical that can do that work, and they're contributing. So the principle that we're trying to work to here is create a community of people that have got problems and know how to solve them. And then we turn that into something that's more reusable. So the purpose of this is to get from people, what are you actually doing at the moment, if anything, and how do you feel that you will be able to contribute to this work stream, which is very sort of outcome based. Has anybody got any comments at all on what I've just said there? And Joseph, you've been doing work, haven't you, with things?
Yes, I have. I almost want to type this because I'm in the office at the moment and there's a little bit sensitive information I'm sort of discussing
understood.
here. So I'll just type this. So, yeah.
That's fine. Don't want to compromise you, Joseph.
No, it's not here. It's within my environment, not the environment further away. Well, so I'll kind of say it quietly. I'm creating my own software tools. I was afraid to try it before, but a couple of weeks ago, I tried creating a bit of software in my mind, construction contracts assistant, what I called it, because obviously it's hard for a person to have, even if you're a construction lawyer and so on, it's hard to have every law in the law books in your head and recall them, and every statute to the letter in your head. And the problem with AI in the past is maybe that it would get information from uncontrolled sources, like from the internet, which isn't controlled. And I thought, well, it's good to have something that's controlled. Is there a way of creating a program that has a controlled context window that I can put the information in there from all my reputable sources I'm happy with, and then and use and ask questions linking to AI with Anthropic in this particular instance, and be able to answer questions and have it only use the information in my controlled context window to answer the question, and then to reference everything so I know where the information came from, and that worked. I was surprised it worked. And then last weekend I expanded, made it a way you could upload your own documents so it could review your documents, that sort of thing. And what I'm doing is I'm creating BIM documents for this company I'm working for, and it's a complex process because the OIR, which I've done already, and the PAR and the AIR, and then they're broken down even with the EIRs. The two EIRs you have are broken down even further to different project types. And what I like to get to a point where I have a standard set of documents and a standard set of EIRs that are fine tuned to the project size and information needs. So I might have a few different templates a person can choose from, and maybe a pick list you can sort of almost and then do this all within this very controlled software package, if that makes any sense. So that's where I want to get to at some point. And of course, there's the other question of my construction management, my construction contracts assistant, because I need to start contacting various publishers and getting their permissions and working out deals with them to allow me to use their information, and how they would be willing to exchange it, use that information on my application, which is obviously that's their intellectual property, and they're gonna want some kind of reward for that, I think.
Yeah.
And that's
or
it.
It could be recognition.
It could be exactly, yeah, or it could be other things. I don't know.
I mean, part of my thinking with this is that as a collective, we're more powerful than we are as individuals.
Yes.
And if there's going to be some things, obviously, that are going to be potentially commercially sensitive or things that we want to keep to ourselves. But quite frankly, at the moment, I think we're better opening up, because it may well be that somebody else has done what you were thinking of doing, and they may have done it better. But then you can then build on what they've done. So it's that sort of community thing that might sound naive, but I think that's a good way for us to get where we need to get to. Franco.
Oops. No, I just wanted to add the importance of
I think you've frozen, Franco.
Oops. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
We froze. You froze just for a moment there. Sorry. You said the importance of, and then it stalled.
Underlining the difference between the tools, the knowledge of the tools and the creation of any tool, and the methodology of data analysis, which, for example, I am not qualified, and probably I will never be, to create any tools, but I have certainly spent decades in analyzing data collected with by means of tools or data sets given to me. So I would like to distinguish the tools element from the data analysis element.
I think there's three parts. I think there's three parts to that, actually, Franco. I think there's the understanding of the data and classification and taxonomies and all that sort of stuff. So it's the data side of things. There's obviously the software side of things as well. But the other is understanding what the business problem is. And you understand what the business problem is for what you're doing. You're an expert in testing and commissioning, whereas there's other people who have got expertise, like Victoria, for example, has got expertise as an architect. So there's a range of different expertise here. So what I'm hoping that we can do, what I'm hoping we can do is to create a community of people that are willing to talk to each other. So you can, for example, Matt Cunliffe, he's an expert in M&E modeling, for example. So we could, if you've got a question for that, then Matt can perhaps help. But we can then build something relatively quickly that importantly is tested and validated. Tim, you got something to say?
Yes, thank you, George. First, what I'd like people to do is please try and fill this survey, and it only takes a few minutes to do, but it will just give us all a very good insight into what people are using or expecting. And there'll be two types of people. There'll be people who want to get stuck in and use the technology to create the results, and there'll be people who will be wanting to say, well, I need something to do this. So there's the creators and the consumers, maybe, that sort of thing. I think the other thing, George, is that the technology, there's many different paths that can be used, and I've noticed that sometimes people don't sometimes appreciate what the different types of AI are. So, for example, I mean, it takes a while to get around some of the acronyms, but basically, what I'm saying is that, for instance, if you're using a platform like OpenAI or Gemini or Anthropic, you can create models which are actually stored prompts that people can then use and you can share, and then you can test it out. So we might want to have that ability to be able to say, I've published this, can you give it a go, see how well it does. A small module size, and then on the other side of it, I was listening to this podcast from people who are heavily involved in AI and AI being used in businesses, and sometimes it's the urge of businesses to say they're using AI without actually having an objective, and it's a tool. You don't do something just because it's there. It's you only use the tool because you want to get to an objective. And what we know is that sometimes we using the tool, the AI part of the tool, to do some level of analysis, but on the other side, we're actually we can do some of the other work through what's called automation. So you create an automation routine. But in the world of AI now, with what's called vibe coding, and that's where you can ask it to write the code for you, you can get it to write the automation code for you and then run it, but you've got to have an environment in which you can run it. So and some of these things that we saw yesterday, George, with the work that somebody's done using Microsoft Dynamics, is they've got a combination of, they've got SharePoint and Microsoft Dynamics, a workflow, and an AI that is a trained AI model that they've got that is then analyzing incoming documents and emails and then sorting it out and pushing it to the right places, particularly when there's sort of high volume of traffic of certain parts of projects or whatever. And I thought that was quite fascinating because they're dealing with huge amounts of properties. It was a housing association. So that's all I wanted to say on that. I put a link in to the survey. It's only a couple of minutes of your time, but it would just give us, without data, we can't do very much thing. I can see 4 people have done it already, which is great. And then we can share the results. I think that's all I've got to say at the moment.
Tim, can I just ask you, is this the same survey as you did the other week?
Yeah, you haven't filled it in again, have you, Richard?
3 times. Tim, have you got the results?
I can filter those.
Have you got the results from the other?
We only had 5 responses, Richard.
Right. Okay.
So this is why the whole thing about, if you ever talk to a data scientist, they will say, without data we can't do anything. And this is exactly the same issue here. It's like, you know, the O&M checker that we've produced, we've now run it on 3 different buildings. So we've now got, and I've had somebody look at the results of it, and what we should be able to do is do an analysis on the results so that we can come up and say, what are the common problems with this? And we were talking to somebody this morning about what they're interested in from the facility management point of view, and they've got a set of questions, and the set of questions are your prompts. That they go into the prompts. You know that. But without this information, we can't do anything. And it's like with what Franco's doing with Malta. Is you've got to get something into to gather information to be able to do the to analyze it anyway, to see which direction you're going to go. That's all. I'll stop talking now.
Okay, good. Thank you, Matthew.
Hey, yeah. So I mean, just a little bit back on Tim's kind of point there. We've got a very close developer friend, and he sort of hates going into meetings now because everybody goes, "Oh, can we AI this?" And everybody just thinks AI is the golden spanner that'll fix everything type thing, and it really frustrates him. And yeah, I think you're kind of right there. I think AI is sort of used quite a lot in marketing now for certain terms as well. But coming to 2 solutions I'd love to see in AI in kind of the space that we're looking at the moment. The one for me is, thing is, you can only get good outcomes with good data. A recent event we went to last few months, a lot of data out there has already been created by AI and is complete and utter, excuse the French, bollocks, because it's just wrong, and then that's getting reused, and then it's creating even more sort of data. So like closed data lakes are obviously vital in this kind of space we're looking at. So with that,
yeah, that's the version. That's the non-graphic version of AI slop.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. So in the kind of space we're looking at, so certainly the legacy estate space, we did a good innovation event the other year, and we kind of built this kind of conceptual space. Now, so two things I'd like to sort of see, and people may know a solution, or it might be a case to mock one up. But one is validating what you have. So throw in all the PDFs, all the O&Ms, all the drawings of commissioning stuff of what you think you have, and let AI validate that, and then rag it, red, amber, green. So green, somebody's been to site recently, so we think that pump in building 1 exists because there's some information there. However, this pump here in building 2 doesn't seem to have been visited, or no information for 20 years. Send somebody out to go and have a look. So help us dictate to create a good data foundation in a way. And then the second one is down the image recognition loop. So it's been a request by a few people we've engaged with, is especially residential. So this is a managed residential home. Somebody's going in, but before it, we've got a condition survey with reality capture. Once they've left, rescan, tell us what the differences are to see whether or not there's defects and stuff to raise up, and then be able to have an AI look at that and be able to raise issues that it could see that can be then validated, if that makes sense. So I don't know if anybody's got any ideas on solutions that are already looking at those 2 instances.
Any thoughts on that? Anybody?
Well, we've got a long running program at the moment where we're taking the 360 photographs, and they're being tagged up to say what the objects are. And then what we've done is then put it through to be able to create the polygon round those. So you've got a spatial map, so that, because you can't run it to create a object recognition model. So that's taking time, because you can only do it with, you need the data, which we've got lots of, but it's just the polygon sizing of it that is going. So that's what we're doing. And I know that people like Matterport and is it Open Space, George?
Yeah.
So they're all interested in doing similar things, and particularly the ones where they're walking around to they're doing the recordings of the site survey, where the guy walks around every week, and you've got and again it's looking at certain things. But again, if you can't train it to recognise stages of work and then performance, particularly things like fire penetration seals, before everything gets covered up, which hides a multitude of sins. So there are some companies doing it. We're doing this, but we haven't run a model for testing yet. But again, a lot of it is sometimes we also tried it to do object recognition using a pre-trained model, which is the LLM, and it was actually we did it a few years ago now, but it was actually very impressive, except for the fact that it was recognizing things that it didn't have our taxonomy. And also there was one where it was recognizing things that were in an office, a tall cabinet, filing cabinet, was coming out as a refrigerator. So again, it depends what you what you're doing, which you don't really want really. But some of the common things. So as I say, there's some of the things that these guys said. Start small as well with your expectations. Don't try and and blow up the world. Try and just do the small bits, because some of those small bits, once you then put them into a pipeline, become a big bit. So, for example,
Yeah, I've got several people waiting to speak. So can we pick up on that in a bit? Victoria.
Good afternoon, everyone. So nice to see you, George, again. And apologies, I will make a slight correction. I'm not necessarily an architect. I'm all sorts. I'm jack of all trades. I worked with architectural practices, which I just successfully completed my my work there. So just to explain where my comments are coming from.
Yeah.
I worked with the construction industry for about 16 years on the different side. I worked on the client side, contractor side, architectural side as this BIM person.
Yeah.
So I end up to do absolutely everything. And in the past 4 years, I learned a lot about mechanical engineering. However, I'm not an architect, not a structural engineer, not mechanical engineer. So at the moment, what I am actually looking at, and this group might benefit, and I will benefit massively just to talk to you, because you have a wealth of experience where I have a tight basis knowledge. So I am working on AI tools with the developers part. So left the industry, and now I'm moving into the tech and software development, but as an architect, not an architect for the not for the construction industry, but for the software architecture and relationship between different data and what needs to be done by AI, by human, by something else. So right now I'm looking at blockchain and smart contracts technologies, and so they are very much parallel with AI. And I will give you one example how potentially we can align here. So about 2.5 weeks ago, the OpenClaw AI, they issued this amazing opportunity for using AI tools vibe coding to create agent. Agent is a little set of skill. It's kind of a model which has you can purchase skills for this model. Safety file, regulation skills purchased, I don't know, architectural skills purchased, and so on. So you can create those AI agents which are going to do a lot of manual work for you automatically. So that's one thing. But and the conversation here is already been raised about IP and security of our data. And this is where the blockchain coming through, where it protects the IP. So the piece of information which is yours, and you do want to release it partially, but you don't want to expose the entire IP to the system. So the blockchain will be able to handle it for you. I'm at the baby steps. I only third week into my freedom, looking at all the possibilities. And one of the platforms I'm working on, it's actually looking at the how to capture the life cycle data of a particular event, and I'm looking at the smart city at the moment. But smart city, smart buildings, not far away, different scales. So, and for the next 3 months, I will be working on the platform which is capturing life cycle of event. That means that the responsibility sits here, it's been executed, this is what happens. So it's events which happen into the data. That's what I will be trying to capture. And then I probably will, so it's in the conceptual stage, as I say. I'm working with the developers myself. I have zero intention to code anything. There is people who are so much better than me at that. But what I can do, everything which I learned there, I can bring into this circle, and we can discuss practically. Also, so, and I made a bullet points. I'm always over prepared for any possible opportunity. So my role could be defining validation states. That's so what I'm interested in. Whatever you are discussing, you will be going into the details of which I probably will have just touch-base knowledge. But what I can do, I can record the validation stages of a process, of a document, until it's becoming the handover results. And then we can very quickly translate it into the AI plus blockchain and hopefully automate some very small process, tiny one, maybe just a very high level to see how it works, and then decide if we need to go any deeper into that process.
Excellent, Victoria. Well done. Yeah, I have to say that I'm skeptical about blockchain in construction, and yeah, and but that's my view, and I'm very happy to be convinced otherwise. But I think one of the challenges is that we're at such a level of quality of information that actually there's a much bigger problem than the handshake, as it were. But I'm not saying that that's not relevant, and I'd be very interested to see what you come up with. Elena. Elena?
Yes, sorry.
Hi.
I was multitasking.
No problem. Are you from Wales? I think hey, there we go.
I am.
Hi.
Oh, I raised my hand. Sorry. Didn't realize.
Did you want to say something?
Not really. Well, now I'm in the spotlight, so I can't say something. Well, thank you very much for organizing these sessions. To be honest, I'm listening most of the time because yeah, interesting things, but in the AI, for example.
So what do you do, Elena? What do you do?
So I'm a digital construction manager.
Yeah.
And I'm coming for architectural background.
Yeah.
So it's a bit unusual. And in terms of the so basically my role is now also change management and
so
and implementing.
So you know Paula Chandler?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, cool. I know Paula quite well. Yeah, good. Okay, excellent. Are you working on schools at all?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, perhaps catch up.
Do you remember I told you I know yet, but I will.
Yeah.
But I can tell you the same with the AI.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Nick Nisbet.
Yeah. I don't know how much interest this is for people, but I've been working with regulatory compliance, and one of the regulations I've been looking at is the thing called the Guide to the Building Regulations. And I've taken both a symbolic AI, what we used to call rules-based, and also a neural AI approach to answering what I thought was quite a tricky question. Do the building regulations apply to Network Rail wishing to construct a showroom in a railway station? Now, I could put in the chat the relevant paragraphs, and it would take you probably 45 minutes to work out the answer. And both approaches are can produce the right answer. So that's quite interesting. But then I started looking into a range of questions that it couldn't answer. And I think one of the really depressing things was the discovery that large language models don't understand tables. They understand lists, but they don't understand tables. And regulations are just stuffed full of two-way tables. And that's a classic example of where, I bet you the people at OpenAI, have never even thought about tables as a problem, but it's very much part of our world. So that's what I'm researching at the moment, is the relevant differences between symbolic AI and neural AI.
Brilliant. That sounds great, Nick. Thank you. Carl Magnus.
Yes, sorry. I've got issues with my classic issues with Teams on my laptop, so I've just rejoined on my phone. No, we've been just when the condition monitoring was raised, we've been deploying this across the NHS for a year now, especially in PFI trusts where they have very large condition surveys of thousands, if not 10,000s of images for building fabric, etc. And we build an AI platform over the last 2 or 3 years, have deployed that across a number of trusts, and we are seeing this as a really, really big application across PFIs, and massive impacts within the PFIs we're working with already. So here's my camera on my phone. So that is really something where we think the models are getting better and better in terms of image recognition. We link that to the PFI contracts, to the estate codes. We can then evidence for every individual image, whether it's condition B or C or D. And that has had a massive impact on the PFI handback team within the trusts. And we're now also trying to work with NISTA to roll that out more widely across other sectors, such as schools, which have a lot of PFI schemes as well. Happy to give a bit of a demo, but I also don't want to bombard this session. Just want to share that we think this is a massive application, and it works very reliably in production as well.
Yeah. So Carl Magnus, we've got a group that's working on PFI, and we as ActivePlan do a lot in PFI. So there may be some good collaboration there.
Absolutely, yeah. Happy to explore that and join that group. We stumbled on this because we deployed in a new trust in Wales, and they asked us to run 6,500 images through our platform that was more for regulatory search and reasoning, and policy writing and review. And by chance, we realized we had been building our model without that use case in mind, but it perfectly executes that use case with some fine tuning. Depending on the local contracts, some of the PFI contracts are written very, very badly and very vague. So it really depends on fine tuning to the specific local contracts, but then it works very, very good.
I certainly would like to see that. So if you've got maybe a sort of 5-10 minute presentation on it, I think that might be a useful thing to pull in, if that's okay.
I can try and do a 2-minute demo now on 2 or 3 images, just so you see kind of how it works and how it's reasoning. But happy to do it at a later stage as well.
Yeah, I think that would be worth looking at. Absolutely.
Let me try and share my screen. Let me know whether you can see that.
George, could you just explain to people very quickly what PFI is? Because there are several people in the chat who don't know, so I'm sure there are others.
Okay, yeah, it stands for Private Finance Initiative, and there are several different flavors of it, but basically it's like a mortgage. So something like a health trust would that needs a new hospital or a new building on their hospital site, rather than paying for it out of capital receipts, what they do is they put together a package, and then the private sector then somebody from the private sector is then picked, and it's a team of financial organization, maybe banks and insurance companies, together with and they form a special purpose vehicle to actually deliver the new facility, and they rent it to the trust for maybe 25, maybe even 40 years. So that the building itself then reverts to the trust at the end of that period. So yeah, that's what PFI is.
An excellent explanation, I have to say. And usually in the NHS, we see 35-year contracts, and then at handback, the building needs to be in condition B, which is basically deemed satisfactory for continued use. And that is often where a huge dispute then arises, because a 35-year-old building will not necessarily be condition B, especially if you use it in 24/7 fashion like the NHS does. And what they do at the end is basically do a survey across the entire trust, or entire building, as in the equipment, the building fabric. And we've seen I put some images from that building fabric survey. I got some images like that, where it's basically looking at those minor issues, but it's then thousands and thousands of images which will be decided individually, whether that's condition B or condition C, whether it needs an entire redecoration or just fixing of a specific issue. And what we've then done is basically build an agent that is linked to the contracts, and then it starts reasoning over this image. It understands it shows you the kind of thinking process. It searches against the PFI code as well as the estate code, which is the Welsh national guidelines for PFIs essentially, and how estates are ranked, and then can analyze what the state of the flooring is and how that's compared to that specific part in the guidelines. So it jumps into the specific part of the PFI code where floor finishes in this example. That's as vague as they define condition B: appropriate, clean, sound, and safe with all trim in place. So it's basically retrieving the essential bits within the regulations and within the contracts, and then arguing over that and saying, okay, this is condition D. And that's both according to the contract as well as the state code, it's condition D, and then overall conclusion. And then we can automate that process over 6,500 images. And that's had a very big impact for the trust, because doing that, and here's another example of an image where you don't really see much, and it's very difficult to argue, okay, what am I searching for? Am I looking for the floor, for the wall? But automating that and having the evidence-based way of saying, we don't claim this is condition C, but we can evidence that in the contract that we've written up 35 years ago, we use this wording, and objectively looking at that wording, this qualifies as condition B or C. So it actually then identifies two components. And within the PFI contract, those are differentiated. Within the estate code, they aren't, and then gives an overall outcome. And that has really been quite impactful for the trust, because the contractors and SPVs, as George explained, play hide and seek with the trust essentially, and in terms of what they don't find and don't point out, we don't have to fix before we hand back the building. And it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in costs. So quite large financial disputes that start arising from that.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, so if that's something that interests you, then put PFI in the chat, and we can come back to you and talk about that. I mean, one of the things that is, I think, pretty relevant to this is that the PFI is a commercial. It's got a very tight framework around it, and the penalties for non-performance are huge. Yeah. Also, the penalties for not keeping asset information up to date are huge. So therefore, what it's doing, it's providing quite an interesting ecosystem for us to look at many of the things that are going to be relevant under the Building Safety Act and the Fire Safety Act and the like, because those are things at the moment, to be honest, people are paying lip service to them. In many cases, there's a lot of things that we're trying to get people to take seriously under the golden thread that actually they really do need to, but until people get prosecuted, maybe they won't. So one of the things that we may touch on just before we finish is that we've been working on a business case example where we can take the value of having the right information and turn it into something that can be presented to board members so that they can see the tangible value of that. And we've produced a white paper that we'd like people's feedback on, because most of the people that come to our meetings are already knowledgeable about what the golden thread's about and why it's needed. The problem is that senior management, the people that are controlling the budgets, often don't realise that. So therefore, they may not appreciate the importance of it. So this white paper that we've produced is there really to enable you as a group of experts to be able to put more value on the work that you do. Elena, for example, as a digital engineer, the being able to actually give some tangible both financial and risk reduction benefits to what you do is a useful thing. So, and one of the things that Franco is doing, we've got several other software companies involved in what we're doing here, and one of them's Mortar. So what we're doing here is looking at the various different activities that are carried out in the golden thread, and then look at what the tasks are that everybody's doing. So we're trying to come up with a task information delivery plan to work to. So I won't say much more than that, but if you're interested in that, I might, Franco, just get you to explain that a little bit later. Jonathan.
Just trying to find the mute. Yeah, so off the back of what Magnus showed, I was just wondering whether it can be applied to other types of contracts. So not necessarily PFI, but other. So I've worked with quite a lot of other contracts, so facility management ones, but more ones which are like 7, 8 years in lasting. Although some of the areas I was looking at what's going to replace the PFIs, and probably most likely they weren't going to be actually replaced with another PFI, but a smaller contract or consumed into another one of the contracts. So be very interesting to know whether it can be linked with things which aren't necessarily PFIs.
I'm sure it can, can't it, Carl?
Yeah, it's basically you have to put the contracts into context a bit. It's how you chunk contracts of that have different content. We have seen it work very well for facilities kind of contracts, cleaning, catering. A lot of our trusts using it for that, especially cleaning audits in a similar way, where there's a lot of audits and failures that will be held against a specific contract. So in short, yes, it takes a bit of fine tuning for every single contract, but that is the work you'd be doing anyway, and understanding context of specific contractual arrangements.
And once you've looked over the picture, because the one thing I found quite a lot about pictures is the actual metadata and asset information. Normally, virtually none of it's attached to the picture. Normally, just a load of numbers of the picture. The grade, the condition, some of the things which the AI was coming back with, can that be then linked and kept with that picture?
Yeah, and what I've showed is basically just a one shot. Here's the picture. What we take is the survey result that has the area, which whether it's a clinical or non-clinical area, has a big impact. Where it's been taken, we can look at the CIPSI lifecycle guideline as well. So the more context you provide the AI with, the better. And we can also look for the equipment surveys. It'll then be looking at maintenance schedules because some of those contractors are running equipment basically to fail at point of handover. It just needs to be condition B on the day before handover. So some of them stop maintaining towards the end. So looking at maintenance schedules and regimes and evidence from that is also quite important for the more complex reviews.
Yeah, one of the things, Carl Magnus, that we'll show you as Active Plan, we've been doing 360 photographs on PFIs for some time. So we can then look at the 360 photographs and also things like fire strategy plans and also fire risk assessments, because one of the big challenges with those is it's not so much the individual asset that you're just inspecting, it's what is that asset doing? And is it part of maybe a compartment wall, for example, or is it part of a ventilation system? So the relationship between the assets and what systems they're part of is also a dimension that that we and others can probably add to your information. So that's where this collaborative way of working, I think, is going to help. Tim.
That'd be excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's fascinating. What's the minimum resolution that it needs to be able to accurately predict?
That's a good question, because we've had survey images that have been taken by, well, the answer is we haven't had very low resolution to test it on. We've had decent images. It's a good question. We haven't really tested, to be honest. We can see that the models are capable of describing. If a human would be able to see it, they would probably be able to see it as well and describe it.
Because obviously with the 360s, we can give you a flat image of exactly what we're looking at and actually say it's this right in the center. Because once we've tagged it, George, then we know exactly the coordinate inside the 360. And in order to do our training, obviously we've got to flatten them out. We've got to create flat images anyway. So I think it's fascinating, because I'd love to see you try it out on a snag in a building, from just a walkthrough, because it's one of the things that, when people are doing snagging, is that they're going to miss stuff, and but if you've got it recorded and you just run it, and then it's a matter of how long it takes to run. So that's the other thing.
So the other interesting thing with this is to build on what Tim's just saying there. Some of our members, people like Open Space, for example, part of our community, and Faro, and there's Matterport and people, they're using 360 photography typically to do construction or during the construction period, so that they can monitor what is actually being installed. Now, what we're doing is we're repurposing the 360s that have been taken for that reason for asset management. And what we can do is add intelligence to the 360 photo to say that's a valve, that's a pump, that's a whatever. Now, if we can then look at that from a condition assessment point of view as well, that becomes a very powerful combination. I'm inspired already by this meeting today. That's brilliant. Joseph, you're on mute, Joseph.
Same kind of subject about these 360 photographs. My understanding is that they when you're doing this survey, it locates the location of these things. If you, like, as you said, this is what I was thinking. It should be able to identify whether it's a pump or whether it's a valve or whatever it is. And then a couple more steps further, if you can identify it, and once it's verified, and you got to work out how you can verify it, maybe another large language model being linked in to double check the results from the first large language model, or a couple of them, is like a what do you call those things? The agents, that's the word looking for. Sorry, I'm getting a bit senile probably. Anyway, and then once you've done that, then you can create perhaps COBie data and uniclass data from that verified element, and push that information back into your BIM model. Wouldn't that be a powerful thing?
Yeah. I mean, when you say a BIM model, that could be a 3D model, it could be a spatial model, it could be a schematic model. So you're
exactly.
Absolutely.
I work with Rivet, but obviously it could be anything. It could be the idea is because our problem, we have existing buildings, we have a lot of them, and they're not going to budget for us surveying these things. But if you could walk through a building and do your survey, you would identify elements that was verified, you can push that information into our digital twin model, whatever that might be. That'd be a fantastic result, which they could use for facilities management.
Cool. Okay. Let's pick up on that, Joseph. Yeah. Pierre.
my contribution here, Carl, would be we really need essentially a spec for the kind of performance that you've achieved. In other words, what is the resolution? What's the depth? What's the EXIF data so that you can actually get the GPS coordinates? What is the hardware that's been used? So if it's a 3D camera or 360 camera versus an iPhone, and you can then roll that out to people who go around on a casual basis and record things, because it means then that you can connect the image to a location, the location to a space, and that space to an IFC or any of the other modeling components. And that starts adding value right the way along the chain. So it's really important to go and get that. And if everybody does that, you now have the comparisons. Now, if you take Barry Bassnett, he's given a whole bunch of guidance on how you get the resolution, how you improve it with the particular photograph, background lighting, what time of the day, those sorts of standards really improve that without having to go and do post-processing, etc. So those are just some of the steps towards that, George. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Right. Okay, next steps. I think possibly what we now need to do is just identify whether you're maybe one of three areas, whether you're providing, whether you want to be part of the consortium, and if you do, then what role would you want to be providing? Are you going to be looking at things from a knowledge perspective, sharing your knowledge, or from a data services perspective, or maybe from a technical perspective? If you want to put in the chat whichever of those roles you actually want to perform, then we can pick up on that. Is it worth us
George, sorry, can you say those roles again so it's very clear?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Whether you're a person that's knowledgeable, whether you want to just contribute your experience and knowledge.
Put mentor in the chat for that one.
Mentor, that's good. Yep. Technical. So if you're actually going to be jumping in like Joseph is, actually doing some Anthropic coding.
Put technical.
Yeah. In fact, that's probably enough, to be honest.
Okay, that's good. Sorry, I just want to make it clear so they can pick them up later.
Yeah. If there's something you want to do that I've not thought of there, then put that in the chat.
Yeah.
Because we're finding our way a little bit here, as you can appreciate, as I think most people are on the whole process. Okay. What I'm going to just do, some of you will have seen the work that Tim's been doing, but I think it's probably worth us just talking that through a little, because an important part of what we're trying to do is to create structured data. So a lot of things like taxonomies and things like that. I'll just show you some examples of what we're doing. So I just need to share my screen.
So while you're saying that, George, I think also it would be great if people could share their failures. So when they've tried out technology, it just didn't work.
And that's a very good point. That's real black box thinking, that is, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what really this is where we're trying to get to, where we've got a golden thread task force, where we've got people that have got knowledge, and can work with other people to come up with some tested solutions, which are then reusable. So we can then bring those together with and create a marketplace of people that want things, and therefore we've got trusted relationships there. And one of the core things about this is having proper classification and proper classified libraries at the heart of things. So we can then have a range of different applications, all of which are using standardized methods of exchanging information. Now, part of this process, we've got the the Golden Thread report, this is the white paper that we've been working on. Some of you will have seen parts of this. Some of you have contributed to it. So if you would like to see the white paper, just put white paper in the chat and we'll send you a copy of the white paper. If you could take a look at it over the next week or so, we'd like to be able to publish it at the end of February with some peer review comments on it. But the objective here is to be able to have a series of different activities that support the Golden Thread with the benefits, but then also to be able to map against those the tasks that people are carrying out and who's responsible for that, so that we can end up with a task information delivery plan. And what we've done, Mo from Mortar has set up a template that Richard can perhaps show us a little bit later, that you can log on to, and you can put your view as to what tasks are needed to support those activities. Okay. In terms of standards, what we're trying to do is encourage people to use both the government standard for property and also the government standards for facilities. And I hope that some of you will be aware of these things. So we've got standardized ways of describing and structuring information. So it then becomes more usable as far as AI is concerned. And all of these comply with COBE. So we can then work through aligning Uniclass, NRM, SFG20, so that we can start to pull these things together. And we've got quite a wide community now of software providers and information providers who are willing to work together in this Golden Thread Task Force. And if you know others that are willing to contribute, I mean, Carl Magnus as obviously one that I think definitely we'd like to involve in this. In the working group, these are the people that have already signed up a couple of weeks ago, but we've got 55 people on today, which is fantastic. That's great news. And one of the things that we're trying to tackle at the moment is at handover. So the information at handover is often, although the BIM model is used by the construction team, often the information about what gets installed never goes into the BIM models. It should, but it often doesn't. So therefore, we have to deal with the fact that the information is probably in a reasonably fragmented set of, in many cases, documents. So what we've been doing is looking at this from a point of view of maybe a SharePoint file or a zip file of all the O&Ms. And let's see how we can then analyze those quickly and easily to identify what needs to be checked and how it needs to be verified. So this is something that, if you've got a project and you'd like to see it tested against that, this is a tool that we built where we can go through, in this case, 10,000 documents and identify what seems to be unreadable or seems to be missing. And that can take seconds to do, which normally would take people perhaps a week to do. what we've also done is we've been building tools to audit and review O&M manuals. So we've created a set of rules, and then we've had experts go through and do it manually, do the checking of each O&M manual to identify anything that's missing. So we're creating a snagging list here, which then can be used to then produce a report that identifies back to the contractor what's missing. So this is something that can be used by the end user before they accept the handover information, but it can also be used by the construction company to check that the O&M information is actually complete. And what it's doing here, it's identifying that on different work packages, based on the rule sets that we've identified, does it have any as-built drawings? Does it have testing and commissioning information? So on this particular project, we had 3 experts, profound experts in M&E and things, going through doing a manual review of each of the work packages, and it took 20 days because it was a fair-sized project. But what we've then done is taken those questions and the answers that were given, and that's important, and we built those into a series of prompts. Now that can then be run against future schemes, and it actually comes up with what's been provided and what's missing, so you know how to fix things. And then going on from there, we can then use this to automate the checking process of O&Ms, and then in a structured way, then be able to check, for example, that all the ironmongery information is actually properly validated. So if you're interested in this sort of O&M checker exercise and you want to be part of that, then if you put O&M checker in the chat, that would be useful. And we've then gone on. I don't know. Do you want to explain this, Tim?
Well, you're driving your slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is sort of classic, really. Is that the people who did the AIR also did the federated COBie output that checks against that it's actually complying with the AIR. So they were definitely going to pass their own homework. Unfortunately, because it came from the federated model, it didn't actually match with the data from the manufacturer of in this case, doors, and they'd missed out door numbers. So there was no way of actually, and those numbers, those in column A, those are not actually the door numbers. Those are keys to identify the record. So the actual tag number for the door number should have gone in there, and they just didn't match up. So that was the first error. The second one, if we go to the next one slide, George.
Yep.
Okay, was the in the federated model, there was for a door type, there are actually 7 variations in this case, and so you'd gone from say 10 to 30 different door types. So already we're getting real big differences in what's in the model and what was actually manufactured and installed. Next one. Okay, so this is the common problem of schedules, is that they get baked into an O&M. Now, I don't know about you, but I find trying to read a big schedule like that in a PDF file and filter it is nigh on impossible. So what you have to do is extract it out to an Excel file. Next one.
Yep.
So you've got something like that you can actually then filter and see. Next one, George. And the door schedules are all different on different for different manufacturers as well. I mean, on the project that we were looking at today, I think we've got about 5 or 7 different schedules for door. That's just for doors, and we haven't even got the door schedule for the plant work on the roof. But again, it's not supplied as data. So the important thing is, well, why wasn't it supplied as data? Well, you probably never asked for it. So that's one of the things. This one was quite interesting because although we could clearly see that this had been produced using a BIM model, we didn't get it. We just got PDF files. But when we started looking at the drawings, I started to notice discrepancies between the door numbers. Now, the nomenclature for the door number was that it had the floor level embedded into it after the D. And if you look there, that's office on level 01, the first floor, but the door is clearly identifying that it's on the second level. And then it's on the fourth level. It's the same door. And you can see what's happened here is that the operator has whoever's done it, usually CAD, the Revit technician, CAD guy or architectural technician, has just copied the floor doors up and then manually gone through and changed the door numbers, except they missed some. So and it wasn't picked up, which you should have seen being picked up. You got duplicate door numbers, or they were inconsistent with the levels that they were on. Again, it's it's attention to detail. But can you imagine somebody 5 years later seeing that information?
Yeah. Okay. And then there was the ironmongery thing as well, wasn't there, Tim?
Oh, right. Okay. So what we did here is that typically the ironmongery manufacturer will produce a document and they will put a big watermark over it because they don't want their ironmongery schedule being used post signing of a contract sent to a rival supplier to provide a cheaper price. So they don't make their information as easy to access. So what we did here was next one, George, is first of all we were able to get all the drawings so that when you click on a door, you actually get the actual drawing that was done for the door. So that's the type. Next one, George. So if you didn't have a clickable way through, then this is what you'd have to do. You'd have to go to that, find the drawing, and then also look it up on a schedule to find the ironmongery set, and then inside the ironmongery manufacturer's document, of which he'd produced 4, because there were different areas of the building. Next one, George. Actually find the pages that were relevant to that particular door. So I don't know how long that would take to do manually, but so what we did was split it all out and made it far more easier just to connect the information together. So we imported the door schedule as a spreadsheet and using the keys. So on the object, you could click on the object. It would then say, oh, there's a schedule here. You click on the schedule button and up pops the data. So and easier to see. So rather than having 50 fields in a row, we've put it into an accordion to make it far more easier to actually digest. But we haven't imported that data into the database because we can do that at a later date. But the important thing is how many clicks does it take to get to this information? Next one, George.
I think that's it, isn't it?
Is it?
Oh no, sorry. Apologies.
Okay, so this was the other thing is that I think this is split out the files. Yeah, so a simple use of AI that anybody can do, and then you can create, if you've got a paid subscription for these services, Gemini, OpenAI or Anthropic, you can actually create what they call a model, which is basically a stored prompt. You can give it some files if you want, so you can give it a template spreadsheet and then say, right, this is what I want you to do. When I use this, I want you to do this. But in this particular case, I just wanted it to split out the door ironmongery schedule and give it me per page, or split. It gave me a spreadsheet there. I don't know what slides I've got. The order of these slides, George. You caught me here.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so that basically split out the ironmongery schedule, so we could associate that, and this is all done through Kobe to import it and everything, so that you've actually then, when you click on the door, you've now got access to both the schedule, but you've also got access to the PDF of the door and the PDF segment of the actual ironmongery. That's it. And really, that ultimately is what people in FM are looking for. Is I haven't got time to go searching through n number of files. I need to get access to this data quickly. So we're trying to find really pragmatic ways to do this at the cheapest possible cost.
Thank you, Tim. Brilliant. Andy.
Yeah, thank you. I think I mentioned last week that I've developed a kind of in-house system, really, and it is a simple spreadsheet, but I didn't want to overcomplicate it because it was complicated already. The process of kind of a RAG status associated with the information that I'd actually received from, in this case, the developer in regards to the O&Ms. I was able to produce a RAG report, but what it doesn't allow me to do is to validate beyond the fact that I've got a folder with a name on it, and then obviously look into the folder and I can see what's there. When I do look in there, yes, there's information missing. And it allows me to go back to my client and say, look, yes, you've sent me a folder. Yes, it's got a document in it, but the document is incomplete or it's inaccurate. I'm not sure Gateway 3 is going to solve that problem. But what I wanted to ask was, I noted just on LinkedIn this morning, something cropped up. I follow the SFG20 information that comes through on LinkedIn, and something came through this morning called SFG20 mobilization, which looks like a tool that does something similar or the same as the kind of filtering of information. So I think you have to have the information appropriate to start with, and then it kind of reads the data and documents it. I suppose the question to the floor is, has anybody used it? Does anyone know what it's like?
Yeah, we're working with it. So yeah, there's, I mean, basically, it's there to be able to map SFG20 against asset types, and then to be able to then use that to populate things like Maximo. Yeah, so I can go through that with you. We're a partner of SFG20, Andy. Okay. So we've got I think I've got some visibility of it. I mean, we have to be careful that we don't overstate what it's actually doing as well, though, because it's all it's doing really is mapping the standard SFG20 procedures against an asset and a location. It's good, but yeah.
Okay, George, I suppose another question, just a quick question. The Gateway 3 scenario, do you think we're still going to have to go through validation of data even if Gateway 3 has been accepted or passed? I kind of feel that we have to.
Yeah, without doubt, because it's not, when you get through Gateway 3, that doesn't mean that you're off the hook, as it were. You have to keep that information up to date.
No, I'm talking about not keeping it up to date, but certainly taking receipt of information at mobilization. So the Gateway 3 is kind of, looks like it's going to solve my problems, but the reality is I don't think it will, because it's going to check what was put against Gateway 2. Gateway 3, obviously, a developer can't occupy till Gateway 3 has been kind of checked, and they've done their checks and balances, and then they can occupy the building. But what my suggestion is, there you can have buildings occupied without really having the data validated to confirm that it's accurate to start with. Yet it's going to confirm you've got it. It's my understanding of it, but it doesn't let us know that it's accurate.
Well, that's why the audit process that I was just showing you earlier, that would check the content of things. I'm going to
George,
jump
can
on
I just ask on the content things? I'm sorry, on the content things.
Bear with me 1 second, Tim. Yeah, sorry. Nata, you've been very patient.
No. Please continue, because it's not on this discussion. So continue, and then I'll comment.
Sorry, finish that off then, Tim. Sorry.
Okay, so on the content thing, that one of the things that we've been doing is extracting data out of the document, particularly drawings. I mean, those are a real pain in the butt. But so we had I think we've mentioned this before. We had a set of drawings for steel doors, but we didn't have a schedule. So I just wrote a prompt that then extracted and created myself a schedule for it. Then I thought, well, we might as well do this for drawings as well, is that we have a set of files, but we don't know what the title panel, the scale, the status, or the date is. So I've written a prompt that does that, and it does it on batch. And I've actually created a GTP custom model to actually do that. And but it will tell you how it gets the information as well, why it's qualifying it. So these are all things that now, in order to run that, don't get too excited because it takes 30 seconds, can take up to 30 seconds of drawing. But that's why you need to be a bit of a programmer to be able to batch these things through, and learn how to make sure that you're using the timeouts, set the timeouts and stuff like that, because it can take a few hours to do a directory. But it's doing the work, not me, not you.
I think one of the important things there, Andy, is that if the people know that you're checking, we believe that people's behavior will change in terms of the effort that they put into making sure that they've done it correctly. Part of the issue, I mean, Kobe's brilliant, but in many cases, people aren't following Kobe properly, as Tim was just showing you there earlier, because they don't think anybody's checking it. Right. So if they know that it's being checked, then they're more likely to get it right. I think it's human nature, isn't it? Nick?
I just wanted to raise a caution about people who are claiming to map between classification systems.
I absolutely agree.
Absolutely. I mean, agree. I could give you the long answer, but the short answer is that it's impossible.
I agree.
People who are claiming to do that.
But all I would say is that Andy Green from Atkins has been doing this for a long time, and I raised a similar level of skepticism when he went through what the ADS Alliance has done, which if it's working the way it should work, then it is pretty amazing. But
yeah.
I'm like you, Nick. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm somewhat skeptical as well, because I think the challenge is for anybody that's not they're not into the weeds of this, the context of where a pump is, what system it's part of, and things like that has a fundamental difference or impact on the classification.
Yeah, you can go from instances to different you can look at an instance and deduce or intuit what the classifications would be in different systems, but you cannot go the other way. And it just bothers me that people are saying, oh, we're doing that, or SFG has published this mapping, or we just need this or that. The different classifications have got different criteria, serve different purposes. And yes, I'd actually be in favor of using large language models to add classification to instances, as many as are needed, if they can take into account all these different factors like role, location, usage, room activity, and stuff which affect it. So yeah, that's a big worry when people start saying, oh, we're going to do that or we need that. Because the fact that Andy Green's been doing it for, let's say, 20 years is a clue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I've got huge respect for Andy as well, but they have been doing it a lot, and they were doing it in Saudi, so they've had quite a lot of money thrown at it. But I'm similarly skeptical in some ways. I think it's something that we need to be cautious about. Nata.
sorry, my point was more on an example you and team were showing about the doors. New hospital program, door is one of our industrialization item. So for the 9 hospitals we're building, we're doing the industrialization piece around doors. I think your example would be a really good one to showcase to the team who are doing the door industrialization around when they do the specification and the requirements. So I'm not sure how I can capture it and just show it to them, or whether I could ask you to come and present it to them. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, we'd welcome that. And the interesting thing about doors is that they are actually both quite simple and also quite complex. And the you know, I've been learning about doors over the last 4 or 5 years, and I never realised that it's as complex.
Especially with the new fire
well,
it was complex to start with, and the new fire requirements has made it 3 times more complex.
Yeah, and for example, what is a manufacturer? What's a door manufacturer? Yeah, I was talking with somebody yesterday, and they're manufacturing doors. No, they're not. They're fabricating them. Yeah, they're assembling doors that are components that have been made. They've been tested as a tested assembly. Yeah, and then they have to follow that recipe in order that that particular door is actually then approved. But my word, it's complex. Yeah, and it's even more complex when you look at how do you deal with the fact that a door needs that. This is why the ironmongery is important. Actually, being able to capture the ironmongery, because if a door it needs to be repaired, it does need to have the same ironmongery that was put on it. And in most handover sets of information, that's not being done particularly well.
No, and then you add the access control on top of all of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's another point. Actually, I will just say this. Sorry, Joseph, I'll pass you over in a second. But the relationship between, let's say, a fire door needs to be considered in relation to the fire strategy, because it's only a fire door if it's in a compartment wall. Right? It's not a fire door because it's an FD30 or an FD60. If it's not performing as a fire door, then you don't need to treat it as one. But the other aspect of that is access control, because there's another perspective on what that door is. It's got many different uses, including letting people through as a fire break and also as a security measure. And these are all conflicting use cases or purposes, as Nick would say. Joseph, we've got 5 minutes.
Yeah, sorry, I won't take up much time. It's a little bit, it's just a little bit of a comment I wanted to make about COBE. I've been putting together information, interviewing various departments in our company to work out what information they need to maintain their buildings. And one comment I got yesterday at one of the meetings was that they don't use. I was given a mandate to find out why they need the information, and we're spending a lot of money to gather the information. We're not using it. And I spoke to someone else yesterday. So the reason why we're not using this information, because this in COBE we don't really read that very well, so we don't use it because it's just too complicated. So they don't want to, because even though even if COBE is done properly, the people at the end users that is all for to maintain the building, I think the answer is going to be some more simplified method of reading COBE for the people using it.
Could I just say the real answer on this is COBE is not the problem, right? COBE is a schema, right?
Of course,
you're quite right. It's how people are using it. So we can have a separate session for anybody that's interested in understanding better about COBE. And again, if you want to be part of that, we're happy to do something on that. If you put COBE in the chat, we can have a separate session. And I welcome the opportunity, Joseph, of going through that with you. Franco.
A very quick one. Well, first of all, I wanted to add let's say 650 grams of skepticism to the work that the ADS Alliance is doing, having worked for decades on this problem. But I wanted to go back to the session where Andy Green stated that in few days they were going to publish something free of charge demonstrating the solution that they put together. So anybody has got any updates on this promise?
Yeah, I've not seen it yet.
Yeah, okay.
But
right.
To be fair to Andy, he's balancing off quite a lot of different parties who have got their own interests.
Okay.
So I think we're on a journey. I think, Franco.
Yeah. I would be eager to see the results of this initiative, as everybody.
Brilliant. Okay. Richard, have we got a couple of minutes for you to be able to show the mortar thing that you showed me earlier?
Yeah, just give me a minute. Let me find it.
I'll just better check with Franco that we're not treading on his toes. But this is basically the mortar website that Mo has set up, so that people can put their information, their task information, directly into it. Are we out of step with you, Franco, on this?
No, it's fine. You know, the method of collecting data is not an issue. It's what to do with it.
Yeah,
that
sure.
is important.
Okay. So
okay,
if you want to contribute to what Richard's going to show you, just put the tasks. Just put tasks in the chat, and we'll come back to you on it. Carry on, Richard, please.
Yeah, I think what you need, if you put that in the chat, then Mo will get in touch with you with this login. If I share my screen now, with a login, with your email address, and then you create a sign in, and when you sign in, hold on a second. Can you see?
Yep.
Yep.
You get to this page. If then click on BIMinAM, it confusingly comes up to a page that says BIM for housing. That needs changing, but it's BIMinAM. And if you these are elements elements that we've got on the colored spreadsheet George showed earlier.
Yeah, they're the main activities.
Exactly, yeah. The main activities. And if you go down here to activities in tasks, there we go, activities in tasks, click on tasks, and you will come to this. And again, the main activities listed on the left. And if you know of a task that is relevant to stakeholder coordination, you just type it in there.
So the principal idea that we're trying to get to here is put together something that can then become part of a task information delivery plan. So we can identify what the key tasks are that you do when you're getting stakeholder coordination. So maybe getting people to contribute to an OIR or an asset information requirements. So the principle here is, what are the tasks? What are the steps you go through to do that? What information do you need? What do you produce? And then who's responsible for that activity? So principally, that's now, Franco, this is your domain. So
yes, well, as I said, we need a little bit more time to describe what will be done with this inputs, and also the benefits that will come out of this exercise, the number of fields that need to be captured. For example, the role of the person that performs each task should be captured, because otherwise we may end up with a long list of things that are not very useful. So
well, that's responsible, isn't it? That'd be the role. That's
but
responsible column.
Yes, but we have to, for example, normalize it. We have to agree on, you know, how a role is described, what the name of the role is. Because you're not going to put a name of a person, right? We need to put under the responsibility heading. We need to put something that everybody describes in the same way. You know, otherwise you will end up with 1,000 different types of responsibility. We have to be sure that we are talking about a well-defined role. This is just an example of how this set of data will be enriched by some smart fields.
Brilliant. Thank you, Franco.
Okay.
So Franco's helping coordinate this, or is coordinating it. But we obviously need people to contribute to this. So if what we're actually doing here is defining really the activities that hopefully will become standardized. Pierre.
George, just quickly, and Franco, I think there's something required in terms of the actual task, was also in what work stage. And the reason behind that is that the actual requirements will change by work stage. In terms of the RACI, what I would be doing is using the 2 characters for AR for architect, ST for structure, etc. And that at the first step is saying the role. And it's quite easy then to sort, and it's comma delimited. So you could put a list of if there were 3 limited by comma. And that just as a method to get it running. If it had to be further defined more specifically, then that can be added in later. But it actually gets at least the thing kicked off so we start to see some results quite quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Good. Okay. Well, I think this has been an inspiring meeting for me. I hope that everybody's got something from it. If you could put some nice comment maybe in the chat to say whether you felt it was good or, you know, or not. I think that might be a useful thing. But yeah, excellent. I think we've had about 60 odd people involved today. So we've got another one coming up in 2 weeks' time. But
and we've already got nearly 80 people registered for that.
Have we really, Richard? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're growing.
Yeah. I think this group is going to, because it cuts across all of the other activities that we're doing, and I think it's something that we what we probably are going to need to do is to have some sort of agreement in place between us, some sort of partnering agreement with us. So we'll give some thought to that, and then be back to you to make sure that everybody's on board with what we're collectively trying to achieve, and then how we move forward with it. Are there any other questions anybody's got? Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, have you all done Tim's survey? Yeah, please make sure you do Tim's survey.
Yeah, we've had I worked to about 23 responses.
Oh, that's
He'll get upset if you don't.
Where is Tim's survey, please?
Okay, I'm going to give it. Just a minute. I've just got to get that link again.
Thank you.
It is quite fundamental because it's actually finding out what tools you're using.
Data, George.
For your artist. Yeah.
Data. You can't do data. You can't do data science without data.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye. Touch.
You need to handle unknowns.